Hi everyone, welcome to this week's recitation. We're going to be working on JavaScript functions. So a couple announcements, the basics. The assignment and quiz is due at the end of the week, but there's an extra one this week. There's going to be a TA extra credit quiz. So that's going to be worth 4 points, and it's optional. It's up to you if you want to do it or not. There's going to be a Google form where you're going to submit the assignment, and I'll talk about it more at the end of the video. Okay. So what are JavaScript functions, or what is a function in JavaScript? So it's like a small machine where it can take input and it's going to give you an output. And the main reason for a function is that once you declare a function and put some code in it and it works, you can just call a function with a couple words later on whenever you need the actual function to generate a result. And the layout is going to look like this. You're going to have the function keyword, the name of the function, and in parentheses you're going to have these things called parameters. Parameters are the same thing as like input arguments or inputs, like when we were doing the flowchart. Let's say you're creating a function that is going to add two numbers together. You would need an input such as two different numbers, like num1 and num2. So that they would be like separated by commas inside the parentheses. Next, you're going to have curly braces, and then you're going to have this return keyword that's going to return some type of result. That's obviously going to happen after you put in some code. Okay, so our first task is going to be a simple one, and it's going to be to calculate the cube of a number. So we're going to create a function that does that. So before we create our function, let's create our HTML document. So create an HTML file and put in the basic shell, like the doc type, HTML tag, head, body, script, all that. Entitle the page cube power function, and make sure you have your script tag inside the body tag. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to do that. Okay, assuming you did that, here's a quick question. What is the formula to create the cube of a number? So we know how to create a square. Let's say that would be like multiplying the same number twice. Creating a cube would be doing it 3 times. And you can express that in this formula, y is equal to x times x times x. Now we're going to use the layout of this formula to create a function. So you're going to use the function keyword, name it cuber, C-U-B-E-R, and put a parameter, how many ever parameters you think you need to create this function. And then write some code that's going to return some type of value and put it inside the curly braces. And put this all inside your script tag in your HTML file. So once you have that, it should look something like this. Lines 8 to 11 over here. It should be, let's make this a little wider. The keyword function, the name of the function. I'm only inputting one parameter because you just have to multiply the same number by itself 3 times. And here's how I'm using the formula. Putting the return keyword and doing num times num times num, semicolon. So if you notice that if you're running this in the browser, nothing's going to pop up. And there's a couple reasons why. And those couple reasons are, the function was never called. We've only made the function. For a function to actually work, you need to call it. And you need a number to perform the calculation. We don't know currently what the value of the input parameter num is. And also, no message was entered to relay the result to the user. So if you want to display the result in a neat format, it's kind of like the alert statements we were doing before, but here we're going to be something else. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to answer a couple of questions first, and that's going to help us fix the code. So how do you input a number to perform the calculation? So this we've done before. You're going to use the keyword var. Var my number is equal to 7. So this is declaring, this is instantiating when you're assigning it a number. And how do you call a function? That's going to be very simple. It's going to be the name of the function and then any parameters that is needed. Notice if you only make the function with one parameter, you can only input one parameter when you call it. You can't put more than one. And since we named our variable my number, we're going to put that same variable name inside the parentheses. And then how do you display a message to the user? Now this part's going to look complicated, but it's just like a bunch of simple things together. So you're going to use the document.write. And inside those parentheses, you're going to have a couple different things. You can have text, you can have a variable, and this is a method call. So any text or plain string that you want to display, that's going to be inside of quotations. And all these plus signs that you see, that's called concatenation. Whenever you're displaying different types of data, like this is text, this is a variable, this is text again, and this is a method call, you're going to use plus sign to put them all together. So the cube of, and here it's going to display the value of my number, is, and then it's going to call the cuber function with the my number, and then that's going to be displayed. So if we put that exact code into our HTML file, it's going to go right after the function is declared. Notice how it's not inside the curly braces, and that's because here we're just making the function. Anytime you're calling it or doing document.write, that's going to be after or outside of the function. So you're going to press save, and I put var my number is equal to 5, and then you're going to open this in the browser, and I get the cube of 5 is 125. Notice I can change the value of my number. Press save again, and when I refresh, it's going to change. It's going to change the method call, it's going to change everything that was changed in the code. So that's like a sample of how to create and call a function in JavaScript. And now we're going to do something a little bit more developed. So our second task is going to be create a function to calculate the amount of money accumulated based on a deposit, interest rate, number of periods per year the interest was being paid, and the number of years the money was in the bank. So if you remember this formula from maybe high school, this is the compound interest formula, and it's this one right here. Money is equal to C times 1 plus R over N to the power of N times T. And we're going to be using this method called math.pow to calculate the power of something, because technically you can't just put the up arrow and just put N times T. That's not how it works in code. Okay, so I want you to create a new HTML file, and let's try to create a method or a function for this assignment. So this is somewhat of what it's going to look like. For now, ignore this stuff. We're only going to focus on this. So I have function int rate, and then I have my parameters CTRN. Now each of those are representing amount deposited, number of years deposited, annual interest rate, and number of interest payments per year. So those are going to be my inputs. And then I'm creating a variable called total dep is equal to math.round C times math.pow 1 plus R over N, and then N times T. Now inside math.pow, how it works is when you highlight next to a parentheses, you can see where the parentheses opens and closes. So see those yellow or orange underlines? So math.pow is everything in right here. Okay. So the way math.pow works is going to take in two parameters, the base and then the exponent. Right now, 1 plus R over N is the base, and then N times T is the exponent. Let's say you want to do x squared, it would be math.pow in parentheses x comma 2. So it's going to be the base and then the exponent. And then now we're going to return total dep. And here I'm actually creating the variables that I've used. Original amount, num years, and int rate, num pay year. And we're giving prompt statements. Now we're going to be asking the user to enter these respective things, and then we're going to display the message to the user afterwards. So let's try running this. Initial deposit, maybe 1,000. Number of years, 20. 3% interest rate, and maybe 14. The total amount accumulated is this number, e to the plus 26. That just means it's a really big number. Okay, so you can obviously round down the number and make it easier for the user to understand, but this is kind of the layout of how it's supposed to look. And now what we're going to be doing is styling this page a little bit more to look nicer. So this file should be in the recitation folders, but it's basically a nicer version of how this could look. So we're having a couple input tags, buttons, different places where we're going to put in code, and we change the background color, change the font, change the type of button that we have and everything like that. And now we're going to figure out where to put our code. It's going to go within this function, and it's going to go inside this onClick attribute. So these are usually the places where JavaScript code would be. You want it inside the onClick attribute, and because that's usually inside a button tag, and you want the calculations to be performed when you click on the button. And then in this onClick attribute, we're going to put in code that eventually calls this function. So instead of writing all of this inside, we're going to just put a couple lines here that will just display it nicely. So using what we did before, this is how your code is going to look like. So your function, you're just going to copy paste, including the variables, and you're just going to ignore these comments for now. You're just going to copy paste the total depth calculation line and the return statement. And then in the onClick attribute, you're going to create a variable that calls the total with interest method that we made with these values. And once you do that, you can just round it down, and you can do tote money.value is equal to $tote.fix. So I'm creating a variable tote money, and then I'm assigning this tote.fix, that means the rounded down version of this variable with the $, to this variable. And that's what is going to be displayed. So now if you save and run this, let's do like 1,023, 14, calculate total amount, and you should have a big number pop up. Let's try it with smaller numbers. Maybe 10, 1.5, 2, $15.63. So you should have something like this. Now this is going to be similar to your extra credit assignment. In your extra credit assignment, you're going to be creating a program that calculates the volume of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and you're going to use the assignment that we just worked on, the calculated interest assignment, and you're going to use it as a template, and you're going to use this formula and display the inputs and outputs using input tags, buttons, stylings, change the background color. I don't want to use prompt and alerts because that's similar to the last assignment we just did. I want you to have everything displayed on the screen, me able to put in values, and then it displays everything nicely. I also want you to put an image of a pyramid. So just make it a really nice HTML form, and you're going to submit it to this Google form by October 29th, 11:55 p.m. So that's basically Sunday night. And this Google form link will also be posted in an announcement. But other than that, that's it for this week and for today. Hope you have a good day, and let me know if you have questions. Oh, I forgot. The attendance secret code is going to be pink, as in the color pink. Okay, now have a good day.